Yeah, please give a warm welcome to Patrick Maier, product manager at ownCloud. And Patrick is gonna showcase one of the newest features in ownCloud, that's document classification. And yeah, have fun with that talk, and I think it's an awesome feature.
Thank you, John. So welcome to my talk, where I'm going to introduce, on the one hand, a new area that we are exploring and starting to conquer, and yeah, also a new feature that will soon arrive in that area. But first of all, I'd like to set the mindset a little bit. So your data is on premise with ownCloud. You have full control. The admin can trace all the actions that users conduct. People are synchronizing files, they are sharing, they are collaborating in the browser together with other users and using all the shiny features that ownCloud offers. And yeah, this in the end boosts the productivity for your users and also for the companies that use it. So you might think, nice, everything is all right. Why should I worry? So take into account if you're dealing with sensitive information. Say your users are collaborating on contracts or recipes, or say blueprints for technical machines are exchanged. Things like that, financial data. There's always potential for human error, also for data breaches. But still, as an IT department, you need to ensure that you stay in compliance. Also, maybe users are not aware of the sensitivity of the information that they are dealing with. And yeah, in the end, data breaches directly translate to cost for enterprises. So there definitely is risk in that case, and that risk wants to be managed. So and that leads us to the talk today, to the new area. We are working to provide solutions for that. Quick agenda, I just want to say a few words on managing these risks, and then we'll show the capabilities for classifying documents and for enforcing policies based on that. I will give a short demo on the new feature that is in the release pipeline, and give a short summary of the benefits and an outlook what the future plans are in this field. So yeah, as I said, these risks want to be managed, and yeah, there are different origins where that need comes from, so to say. So we have customers, for example, from the financial sector, where there's no external requirement for managing those risks, but they are well aware of the sensitivity of the data that they are dealing with and have internal requirements to manage these risks. Also, in some sectors, risks can come from regulatory requirements, and yeah, industry-specific recommendations can also be a point that lets the need for that arise. So, for example, we have a customer from the automotive industry in Germany, and there the German Association of the Automotive Sector recommends to classify data, and to do that to stay in compliance with the leading industry or information security standard, ISO 27001. And yeah, they recommend that to really stay in compliance when working within the value chain. So, as I said, ISO 27001 puts up some guidelines for managing sensitive information within a company. And that's, yeah, these four. For the first one, we can't help much. That's outside of our realm, so to say. But the other three, like classifying information, labeling information for that users are aware of what they're dealing with, and then, of course, handling that information in a secure way. That's what we can support, so to say. So, how do you get there if you don't have it already? The first step is, of course, that you define guidelines for your contents and the security levels that you have internally. So one suggestion that is quite popular is, for example, to separate files into public, internal, confidential, and strictly confidential information. And once you have that, you, of course, need to associate the contents of files with that security levels. When you have those guidelines set up, then you of course need to classify according to those guidelines, and then you can enforce certain policies that prohibit users from doing certain actions. So, as I said, document classification is a point where we start to explore and to help to support our customer base. And there are several ways how you do it, how you can do it in ownCloud. First of all, classification levels in ownCloud are or will be represented via the tagging feature. So you have different kinds of tags for different purposes. For the tag class that you probably all know is the visible tag, which can be used by users to, for example, also filter files. But there are also other kinds of tags, like the restricted or the invisible tags, which can only be created by administrators and which are mainly used for workflows or for access policies, and in this case also for document classification. And based on the tags, you have several ways already, and some in the future, to classify text. The first one and the easiest is, of course, the manual classification. So if you watched the roadmap talk yesterday, you saw that we plan to introduce another scope of tags, that's static tags. These are mainly tasked to help here, because admins can supply them to users, associate policies with the tags, and users can use them to classify their files manually. That's one thing. Also, already there's the workflow app. That's an enterprise extension which can be used to classify files based on user or file properties. So you can say files of certain users have a certain classification level, of certain file types like PDF or something like that can have a certain classification level. And now what's really new and what's in the pipeline is not yet released, but it will come very soon in the next weeks, is the automated classification based on document metadata. And that's a pretty nice thing because that's something that many companies already have in place. You require the users to classify data before it leaves their workstation. So there are possibilities in LibreOffice. It comes with LibreOffice, it's integrated. It's the TSCP feature where you can, in the Office suite, set certain classification levels and then save that, and that will be contained within the document. Also for Microsoft Office, there are possibilities, but there you need add-ons. It doesn't come with the basic version. For that, we recommend NovaPath, which is an extension by a German company called M&H IT Security. And for that, after the conference, we also will do a joint white paper to show and present our joint solution for that. So what the new extension does is when you upload such a file to ownCloud, it can read the metadata and assign tags based on that. So you have the classification, so to say, imported to ownCloud. Right now that supports Microsoft Office file formats like docx or PowerPoint and Excel. And yeah, that can then be used for policy enforcement. So first you classify the documents, you have them in ownCloud, they are tagged, they are separated, and then you have different kinds of policies that you can impose based on the classification. So I split that into two areas. The one is access policies. This is already possible via the file firewall extension. So you can, for example, combine classification levels with certain user groups and say, yeah, some group of users may not access documents that are classified as confidential, for example. So you really make sure that even though another user shares them with them, maybe accidentally or something, they still cannot access those data. And there's a wide range of combinations of certain policies where you are quite flexible. And what is really new is feature policies. That's yeah, the second part of the new extension that's just around the corner. And yeah, I call it feature policies because it actually alters the behavior of features. You can then, based on classification, say certain files can't even be uploaded, say strictly confidential files. You don't want them to be available in ownCloud, for example. Or for other classification levels, you can say you want to prevent link sharing. Say external sharing should not be possible for confidential files, for example. And that will apply to the creation of public links for these files, and also, and this is very important, also for moving such files into already shared spaces, so to say. And apart from prohibition, there's also a policy for enabling things. So you might have a policy configured that says that all public links need to expire after 1 week to make sure that files don't stay shared forever. And you can break that with the last policy by just saying files that are classified as public, they can be shared for a long time because they are public and you want people to be able to access them for a longer time than your general expiration rules, so to say. So yeah, and at this point, I'm leaving the presentation. Would like to show you how that works. In a quick demo, I will use LibreOffice Writer for that and say, this is a confidential document. Oh my God, it's so confidential. And then I hope you can somehow see that you have this drop-down menu where you can define the classification level. I hope it's readable. That's non-business, general business, and internal only in that case, but there are different frameworks available. I choose confidential for now. So you see it's now confidential marked, and save that into my demo folder. As a docx file. Yeah, I really want to do that. And now, when I go back to that folder, I can rename that to a zip file. Open that, and yeah, that's the contents how of the docx document, how that is stored. And if you go to the docprops folder, you find the custom XML. Maybe I can make that a little bigger. Yeah, okay. Hope that's readable. So that's the metadata contained in that document. And if you now see here, you have that property which contains the information confidential. So I just copy that. Let's see to get to my text file for the demo. Oop. Here we are. And just take a note of that. So now I know where that document information is stored, that metadata is stored. And now I'm heading over to ownCloud here in the browser and try to configure that policy. So for that, go to Settings, to Workflows and Text section, and there you see that new user interface for that. First of all, of course, I need a tag for classification. I create one in the Collaborative Text Management section. Call it Class Confidential. Make it restricted for that users cannot remove it and then still access the file or do other things with it. So the tag is created. So now I can create the rule based on the, first I have to refresh the page for that the tag is available. So I choose Class Confidential for my rule. So now I need the so-called XPath, that's actually the location where the information is stored. And then I specify the value that, that determines the policy, so to say, the classification policy. For that, I need to go back to my text file and just insert what I copied before from the document in here. Of course, there will be documentation that shows how this works, but actually it's pretty easy. So I copy that, go back to ownCloud and put that in here. And as we saw, the actual value is confidential. And then I have the 3 policies that I just mentioned to prevent upload here, to prevent public link sharing, or to have a separate expiration policy. For now, for the demonstration, I use the prevent public link sharing policy because I don't want that these confidential files will be shared externally. Also, there's a logging path, logging XPath option, which can be used to log the value that is in another property in that document to, for example, log a document ID, which can be used in log analyzing in the end. So I saved that. Now the policy is in place. And to be able to upload it, of course, I need to rename it back to docx. Done. And now go to that demo folder and upload the file. It's there. And you can see now has that class confidential tag, so users can see, they are aware which classification level that document has. And yeah, if I now try to create a public link for that file, it will tell me that this is not possible because it's classified. Yeah, I could also show that sharing, that moving it into a shared folder doesn't work, but I think you believe me that this is the case. So there's no way currently to share that file externally. Yeah, so that's it for the demo. Going back to the presentation. So with this, you can comply with leading information security standards as mentioned. It's also possible to get certified, so you can really say that you're processing information in a very secure way, and also deal with other companies that have such requirements. You show the classification level to users so that they are aware of the contents they're dealing with, and with the policies you cover for data breaches. Also human mistakes, which can happen. Everybody does mistakes all the time, which is quite normal, but you can really have, a feature to prevent it, to make really sure that human mistakes can't happen because the software prevents it. And with that, you can fulfill regulatory and corporate data protection requirements, and yeah, ensure that you're dealing with the information you have in the right way. So maybe quick outlook for the future. So as I said, the initial release of the document classification app that also contains the feature policies, yeah, it's almost done. Will happen in the next weeks as part of the ownCloud Enterprise Edition. For the future, it's very interesting to explore that field more in depth and, for example, to add policies that also prevent guest sharing. So, because that's obviously also a way where how documents can leave the company. You want to be able to prevent that too. Also, we're exploring things like having document retention, like automatically deleting files based on the classification level. So quite sensitive information might need to be deleted earlier than other information. And also you might want to have policies for documents that are not classified. So to say, you don't want to take documents that are not classified, for example, to really require users to add that classification level. Also, currently files are classified on upload. So you might want to have, if you have a lot of data already in ownCloud, you also might want to classify that data which already resides in ownCloud. Also, yeah, you're limited right now with the first release to Microsoft Office formats. Of course, companies are dealing with many more formats like PDF or also open document formats. These will need to be extended in the future. And also, which is quite interesting, we're looking into integrating, for example, an Elasticsearch server that indexes the files, and then you could have certain identifiers, like, for example, there are email addresses in the document, for example, just an example, or any other thing like watermarks to classify documents based on that. And yeah, this will enable many more document types to be classified and to be really sure that information is exchanged in the way you want it to be. So far, so good. Do you have questions? Again, please. So the question is, where is the actual classification happening? And that depends on what classification mechanism you choose. So if you choose that automated classification based on document metadata, which I just showed in the demo, the classification happens in the backend. So it doesn't matter which way you choose to upload the file. So you could also use the desktop sync client to synchronize files. The actual evaluation of the metadata is done in the backend on the server, and there the tags are also associated. Question answered? Exactly. So yeah, also with older clients, and also even if you would use some third-party WebDAV client, the classification happens on the backend. It doesn't matter how it reaches the backend, it will always be classified. Yeah. Okay, if there are not any more questions, I'd like to thank you for attending, for listening. And if you have other things in mind or questions for that topic, I'm always around. You can always approach me. Thank you.